Okay, we almost finished fungal feeding in the last module, but let's finish it out. So we've already said that whether it's a yeast, but more typically if it's a mycelial fungus, a multicellular fungus, that their main role in the environment, the big ecological importance of them is they decompose, especially wood material, um, and in a way that feeding is moving and growth at the same time. So here is what most people think of when they think of a fungus, but these are actually just the reproductive organs. In the vascular canals, the vascular cells, the vascular tissue of the wood, the xylem, sometimes the bark as well, this is where a fungus is often living. This little white stuff is really the filaments that extend all the way throughout the vascular cell. So essentially when a tree dies, even sometimes when it's alive, the mycelium is kind of working its way where normally water or sap would be, trying to kind of invade that wood. And then they secrete the digestive acids and they start eating the lignin that line those cells. You can see why they're called decomposers. And they're really good at it. But also, they often don't care if the plant's fully dead yet. If there's wood available for them to start eating, whether it's of a living plant or a dead plant, because remember, wood by definition is dead already, they're going to start. And so they are part of the reason that trees, when they're really old, will become hollow in the middle because that wood has done its job. It's no longer moving fluids, and then the fungus starts to attack it. So fungus is pretty cool. So this is the world of a fungus, and then when they do sex, when they do reproduction, then they produce the mushroom structure in order to release the spores into the wind. So this is the world of mycelial fungus. Let's talk about a fairy ring. So fairy rings are called fairy rings because mostly in Europe in like medieval times, pre-scientific times, what people would see is that if there's a field that there's no mushrooms in it, and then it rains for a few days, and then you come back out, and now all of a sudden there's a ring of mushrooms, and they almost appear as if they were there overnight. And before people understood science, they described it using superstitious explanations. And so it was called a fairy ring because with mushrooms, again, we said that people often associate mushrooms with like magical, religious, kind of weird things. And so the thinking here was, well, traditional cultures, many still today, dance in circles, circle dances, and that's true really around the world. It's just something humans love to do, except in these kind of crazy COVID times. Um, and so the thinking was that when no one was watching, there was like a party of fairies and elves and gnomes and unicorns and all kinds of crazy beings, and they've left the party. But the residue of that party, their magic pixie dust, their fairy dust, caused the mushrooms to form. Okay, and so it was kind of interpreted as a magical thing. We now know that's not true. What we have here is, and I'm going to kind of draw this if I can, is that at some point you had a mycelium that was here in the middle. And then over time, the mycelium was hungry. And so it would grow new filaments out from where it lived because it had digested all of the plant matter that was in the dirt there. And so it's growing outward from the middle. And then over time, this is now where the mycelium is going to be, and the stuff in the middle has died. So it's gone in the middle. And they just keep digesting and getting bigger, and over years, bigger and bigger, digesting what's in the mycelium. And then we get rid of the marker. Nope, go back to the marker. Oh, come on. How do I get rid of the marker? There we are. Nope, not that one. Sorry. I am not good with technology so well. How do I turn this off? Hold on. Sorry about that. Nope. Go back. I don't know. Whatever, I'll figure it out. Okay. So over time, they're basically moving while they're finding new food to digest and dying in the middle. Then what happens is that it rains. And rain is often a trigger for good times if you're a plant or a fungus that needs moisture so you don't dry out. And so the rain is what triggers them to engage in sex. And then the mushroom is where a mycelium has been in contact with another mycelium in the soil. And so they do reproduction and they grow the fairy ring. And then this ring will produce spores. It's done with reproduction. reproduction, and the mushroom will die out and dry off. And then the mycelium will continue growing in the soil, digesting plant matter. So that's the world of a fungus. Over many, if you have a flat, homogeneous kind of soil profile, in some parts of the world you can get literally centuries old mycelium that now produce fairy rings that are hundreds of feet across. It's a really amazing, cool experience. Not magical, not made by fairies, but is really one of the great mysteries now solved in biology. And you can get a sense of this. Here's a kind of not very good fairy ring. But if you look at the grass, notice the grass is not so green on the inside and it's really green where the mushrooms are. This tells you the decompositional power of a fungus. Where the fungus is alive, which is where the fairy ring um, is where the fungus is decomposing plant matter and recycling the nutrients. And so the plants where the fungus is living are the happiest, the healthiest. They have the most fertilizer. They grow the greenest. And that's pretty true as well. So remember, fungus is often helping plants by eating plants and recycling those nutrients for future plants. Really cool. Okay, so let's do a review question and then we'll go into fungal reproduction. So here's a fungus. What's the term for the multicellular body of this organism? Is it a hypha, a mushroom, a mycelium, or a yeast? And the answer here, pause your computer until you're confident, it's mycelium. So the hypha are the filaments that make up the mycelium. The mushroom is only the part of the organism that's involved in sexual reproduction, and yeast is if it's a single-celled fungus. Okay, we'll call this module done, very short, and then we'll do reproduction in the next one.